To anyone outside of America, Hawaii is known for two exports, Saliva'a Pua'uli Atisanoi, also known as Konishiki Gasokichi, also known simply as Sally, and the other export is whatever this abomination is. Seeing as how most of the world agrees that pineapple don't belong on pizza, let's turn our attention back to Sally. Sally is one of the most well-known non-Japanese sumo wrestlers throughout the nation, although to most people in the world, he's that big fat guy from Tokyo Drift. Seeing a Hawaiian-born individual this close to a car that's made to go fast is somewhat alien, considering there are very few motor racing facilities in Hawaii, save for a couple drag strips, a go-kart track, and the remains of what would have been a marquee champ car event at the beginning of the new millennium. Wait, hold up, Hawaiian champ car race? Why haven't I heard of this? The idea for a major race in the Hawaiian Islands came about in the early 1990s, with Dick Rutherford as the promoter. Now, seeing as how I can't find a picture of this guy like anywhere, he will instead be substituted with this pineapple. So anyway, Dick here was looking to create a marquee event for kart, after the US 500 had tanked since its inception in 1996. Given the fact that it was up against the Indianapolis 500, it really paled in comparison. Despite there being no governing body and no firm location for the race to take place on, Dick was optimistic that a race could eventuate before the Y2K bug had a chance to kill everybody. Eventually, the inaugural Hawaiian Super Prix was announced via a press conference on the 25th of February. The race would be held near Honolulu on the 13th of November the very same year. Now, that was inconvenient timing because Dick and his affiliates at CART had only 10 months to convince the local public, as well as a consortium of foreign race fans and knuckle dragon mouth breathers, to fly over to one of the top holiday destinations in the world, only to attend a race they could have done in, say, Cleveland? But I suppose the difference in that is that after the racing is done at the Hawaii Super Prix, the tourist hotspot of Honolulu is right there at your disposal, similar to how the Gold Coast is over in Australia, whereas Cleveland is, well, it's Cleveland. But anyway, Dick envisioned a marquee event that would stand alone for American open wheel racing, a large-scale, championship-style, finale type of event. Apparently, noble concept, but the idea of it being a championship event was little more than a pipe dream, as this would be a non-championship event. For 1999 at least, it would be an invitation-only event with a $10 million purse, $5 million to the race winner, $250,000 to the pole winner. Decent coin for a motorsport event, especially seeing how it wasn't for points. The winner of this event would have gotten more than double that of what Jeff Gordon got for winning the Daytona 500 with $2.17 million. The location as well was decided, ditching the prospect of a dedicated road course or street circuit for that of an airfield course. Utilising the Kalaeloa airport, the circuit was 1.8 miles in length with 10 turns. Kind of like Cleveland in a sense. Repaving efforts were already being established in the months leading up to the event, with the circuit itself actually pretty much being ready to host the event come November. The entry list was stacked too. We have an all-star roster and a seemingly all-star circuit lined up. The only thing is, these were the only things that were really taking shape. Almost immediately after the announcement back in February, people were wondering if such an event could be possible. A multitude of things would be working against them, and it ultimately killed the event. Giving themselves 10 months to advertise the event obviously didn't help, but it was even more so that CART themselves did everything half-assed. Although due to their existing TV deal with ABC and ESPN, they weren't really going to be allowed to even promote the event on their broadcasts. But hang on, why would they not want this event to be promoted? They're broadcasting it, right? Well, that brings us on to the next reason for the crash landing of the event. Due to scheduling conflicts with college American football, a sport played by those too inept to play rugby, the race would not be broadcast live on that date or time by either of the networks. So then, Dick and his cronies reckoned with the idea of pay-per-view. Motorsport has never been a sport to be broadcast on pay-per-view, and fans weren't willing to start with this thing. An unproven race event being run by a shaky organisation who are starting to lose competition to their rivals whilst collaborating with pineapple heads. Or maybe I just generalised the whole situation way too much there. Fuck it, who knows? There were labour issues too. Basically, the workers were pissed off and initiated a slowdown, which basically meant they sought to make sure work went behind schedule as an alternative to striking. This meant, above other things, that necessities such as grandstands, catch fencing, and blow-up dolls ended up being behind schedule, or never even left the mainland. Although stroll down the district of Honolulu and tell me that the assortment of blow-up dolls didn't actually arrive. Even if the event didn't bite the dust, not even half the grandstands would have been erected by race day. This would have obviously placed the whole thing in jeopardy, with the people who purchased tickets turning up on race day to a half-empty course. That'd piss off the masses who bought those tickets, although that said, not many did. The prospect of the motorsports holiday didn't strike a chord with many. Less than 20,000 tickets were sold for the event, which may sound like a lot to some, but this is motorsport. The Indy 500 gets 250,000 people to turn up. At the last minute they tried to offer discounts on seats, but by this time, the event funds were drying up. out, and the pathetic infomercials being run to advertise these were subsequently pulled. Add all of these things together, and it all correlates to the one big reason this event met a dismal end. They couldn't find a title sponsor. With the massive purse being laid down for the event, Dick and his Bulls boys needed the money to, actually pay out the drivers, labourers, and other fruitcakes that were owed money. But again, this takes us back to the issue of time. If any of you have ever worked in corporate events and advertising, you'd know the budget allocation is dished out a lot earlier than the end of February. As a result, almost any party willing to pledge funds had already invested their dough in other events. Their budget was exhausted for the year. That, coupled with the shaky foundations of which the event was built on, meant that they obviously didn't find the sponsor they needed. By the end of the summer, Dick and his cronies had spent over $10 million in costs toward this event, such as marketing and operational costs, and the remaining budget of the event could not be covered on their budget alone. But of course, they couldn't find a sponsor to invest enough money to save them, so they couldn't rely on that sector either. The event was bonded for $30 million, which, in theory, meant that all the costs would have been covered, despite all the issues highlighted in the lead up to this. The event was underwritten via investment banking firm CNB Capital of New Hampshire. An investment policy for $5 million through Frontier Insurance of Nashville was secured and would be used to pay the sanctioning fee to CART. But in early October, the banks pulled the plug, killing off more funding and further sinking the sailing ship. They tried to find investors to save the event, high interest loans, cutting the prize money, and even messing with the grid, but nothing worked. On October 19, they made the decision to cancel the race. A letter from David Grayson and Phil Hurd was subsequently sent to CART stating HSB would not be able to meet its financial obligations to CART, which is a very diplomatic way of saying we fucked up. With that, no attempt was made to revive the event, at least no serious ones, and CART itself would eventually die a few years later. Pretty depressing when you think about it. I mean, CART was awesome to watch back in the day, even though in the year I described this, I was 4 years old. If you want a motorsport holiday nowadays, you generally go to the Singapore Grand Prix, or the Bahrain Grand Prix, if that melts your butter, but something like this truly would have been unique. It's a shame, really, to think that a marquee event for a championship, losing ground to its competitor, that would have brought a surge of interest in motor racing to Hawaii, was ultimately butchered by someone jumping into the deep end without first learning how to swim. Anyone you know of looked to going to this event? Do you have any comments at all? If you do, then drop them down below. And the other usual stuff, give this page a like and subscribe, whatever, I really don't give a fuck.